Good morning. I'm coming to you from Siloam Missionary Baptist Church located in Rougemont, North Carolina, where the Reverend Wayne Johnson is pastor. I will be bringing you the Sunday school lesson for June 20th, 2021. The lesson is entitled, Jonathan Attacks the Philistine Outpost. My name is Charlotte Timberlake. The scripture lesson text will be coming from 1 Samuel chapter 14, verses 1 through 13, and it reads, Now it came to pass upon a day that Jonathan, the son of Saul, said unto the young man that bare his armor, Come and let us go over to the Philistines' garrison, that is on the other side. But he told not his father. And Saul tarried in the uttermost part of Gibeah under a pomegranate tree, which is in Migron, and the people that were with him were about 600 men. And Ahiah, the son of Ahitub, Ichabod's brother, the son of Phinehas, the son of Eli, the Lord's priest in Shiloh, wearing an ephod. And the people knew not that Jonathan was gone. And between the passages by which Jonathan sought to go over unto the Philistines' garrison, there was a sharp rock on the one side and a sharp rock on the other side, and the name of the one was Bozez, and the name of the other Sinai. The forefront of the one was situate northward over against Michmash, and the other southward over against Gibeah. And Jonathan said to the young man that bare his armor, Come and let us go over unto the garrison of these uncircumcised. It may be that the Lord will work for us, for there is no restraint to the Lord to save by many or by few. And his armor-bearer said unto him, Do all that is in thine heart. Turn thee, behold, I am with thee according to thy heart. Then said Jonathan, Behold, we will pass over unto these men, and we will discover ourselves unto them. If they say thus unto us, Tarry until we come to you, then we will stand still in our place, and will not go up unto them. But if they say thus, Come up unto us, then we will go up. For the Lord hath delivered them into our hands, and this shall be a sign unto us. And both of them discovered themselves unto the garrison of the Philistines. And the Philistines said, Behold, the Hebrews come forth out of the holes where they had hid themselves. And the men of the garrison answered Jonathan and his armor-bearer, and said, Come up to us, and we will show you a thing. And Jonathan said unto his armor-bearer, Come up after me, for the Lord hath delivered them into the hand of Israel. And Jonathan climbed up upon his hands and upon his feet, and his armor-bearer after him. And they fell before Jonathan, and his armor-bearer slew after him. May the Lord add a blessing to the reading of his word. The golden text reads, And Jonathan said to the young man that bare his armor, Come and let us go over unto the garrison of these uncircumcised. It may be that the Lord will work for us, for there is no restraint to the Lord to save by many or by few. 1 Samuel chapter 14, verse 6. Today's lesson aim, facts, to illustrate that victory in our lives requires perseverance and faith in the Lord. Principle, to teach that God always honors those who are willing to stand up against the enemy in his name. Application, to stress the need to rely always on the Lord's strength and not our own. Introducing the lesson. The Philistines were far superior to the Israelites in military might and weaponry. They had the latest technology in weapon making. They had a great number of spears and swords made from iron, while Israel had almost none. The Israelites needed to defeat the Philistines, but they also needed someone to step up and do something heroic. That is where this week's Man of valor takes center stage. Developing the lesson. Number 1, Jonathan's courage. 1 Samuel chapter 14, verses 1 through 5. Saul and Jonathan were the only two people in Israel's army who had weapons of iron. Chapter 13, verse 22. Jonathan had an arsenal of weapons, an armor-bearer who was willing to fight alongside him, and his God, who could not be defeated. Without even telling his father, King Saul, what he was doing, Jonathan and his armor-bearer planned a special forces type attack on the Philistines. Number 2, Jonathan's faith. 1 Samuel chapter 14, verses 6 through 13. The only person Jonathan had with him in this attack was his armor-bearer. An armor-bearer had an important job. He served as a personal assistant to a king or military commander and carried additional weapons. Jonathan knew that if he trusted God, God would help him. He worshiped the one true God and could count on him. The armor-bearer also displayed great faith by responding that he was with Jonathan and would fight with him with all that he had. Jonathan decided he would know that God had delivered the Philistines to him by the way the Philistines responded when they saw him. If they told him to come over to them when he showed himself to them, he would take that as an indication God had given the Philistines over to him and that he would defeat them. That is exactly what happened, and when the Philistines told him and his armor-bearer to come over to them so they could show them something, they entered the Philistine camp and unleashed an offensive that was totally unexpected. The Lord gave the Philistines into the hands of Jonathan that day, and between him and his armor-bearer, they killed about 20 warriors in that first strike, verse 14. God can do the impossible, and he has been doing so for a very long time. Jonathan defeated the Philistines not because he had more weapons or a greater army, but because he had faith to believe God would go with him in battle and ensure victory. We will now go over the questions in the back of the lesson. Question number 1. What suggestion did Jonathan make to his armor-bearer? The answer: but the Philistine garrison had not escaped Jonathan's notice. Indeed, it aroused his curiosity. One day he suggested to his young armor-bearer that the two of them go check it out. Question number 2. Where was Saul at this time? The answer: the writer is careful to note again that Saul was staying on the outskirts of Gibeah, camped under a pomegranate tree at Migron, chapter 14, verse 2. Question number 3. What is emphasized with regard to Jonathan's plan? The answer: more significantly for events yet to come, it is stressed that no one in Saul's camp knew that Jonathan had departed. Question number 5. What was Jonathan hoping for in checking out the enemy garrison? The answer: Jonathan suggested to his armor-bearer that they go across and pay the uncircumcised garrison a visit. He wanted a confrontation. Question number 6. Why did Jonathan say, quote, it may be, end quote, in looking for God's help against the enemy? 1 Samuel chapter 14, verse 6. The answer: his use of, quote, maybe, end quote, does not indicate doubt in God's ability, but rather shows a mature faith that avoids presumption. Question number 7. How does the armor-bearer respond to Jonathan's suggestion? The answer: the young man who served as Jonathan's armor-bearer may not have possessed the same degree of conviction as Jonathan, but he had sufficient faith to agree to the plan without flinching. Question number 8. How was Jonathan planning to use the enemy response? The answer: Jonathan envisioned two possible responses, and he would use whichever one was given to gauge the Lord's will in the whole enterprise. Question number 9. What did the Philistines' derisive challenge signify to Jonathan? The answer: the derisive challenge of the Philistines held no intimidation for Jonathan. Their words were music to his ears, the clinching sign from the Lord. And question number 10. How did two men succeed against vastly superior numbers? The answer: when the two reached the top, they immediately engaged the surprised Philistines and had a field day killing enemy soldiers right and left. The hand of God was on these two men who trusted him in the venture. They trusted him enough to stake their lives on it, and he honored their faith. I will now read the practical points. Number 1. Acting in faith often requires a believer to leave the crowd behind. 1 Samuel chapter 14, verse 1. Number 2. Fear leaves us vulnerable and oblivious to God's plan. Verses 2 through 3. Number 3. God gives boldness to those who know the battle belongs to him. Verses 4 through 6. Number 4. God gives loyal and faithful companions to walk with us on the journey of faith. Verse 7. Number 5. Moving forward in faith means that believers listen for God and follow his lead. Verses 8 through 10. Number 6. God brings great victory from even small steps of faith in him. Verses 11 through 13. In summary, throughout the Old Testament, we see many instances of God fighting on behalf of his people, as well as numerous reminders that they didn't get their victories through their own abilities. In this week's lesson, we learned that Jonathan was well aware of that truth. He recognized that the Lord could save by many or by few. See 1 Samuel chapter 14, verse 6. Even today, we can see that God still does great and marvelous things through only a handful of his people. Just think about it. You have just two people, Jonathan and his armor bearer, take on the army of the Philistines. God can do the impossible. Jonathan defeated the Philistines not because he had more weapons or a greater army, but because he had faith to believe God would go with him in battle and ensure victory over an enemy that outnumbered him. This is encouraging because it reminds us that no matter what circumstances we find ourselves in, God can change it around in an instant. When we think the odds are against us, we must remember that the odds carry no weight with God. Jonathan knew God could do anything and acted accordingly. His faith is a beautiful example to all of us. This will conclude the lesson for this morning. Thank you for listening. Be blessed and happy Father's Day.